Hello and welcome back to Boxing Social in association with Betfred. My name is Ayman Khan. We're here in Glasgow, Scotland for an undisputed fight week. Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall. With me is the one and only Adam Smith. Adam, we don't get too many undisputed fight weeks. Great to be part of one. How you feeling?
Absolutely excited. Can't wait. Really good to be back in Scotland. We've had some phenomenal fight nights over the years. My friend Gary Jacobs, we started with him, and the likes of Scott Harrison, Ricky Burns, Alex Arthur, many great nights here north of the border. Willie Limond as well, and Drew Doherty, some great fighters. So really pleased to be back up in Scotland. And it's the homecoming of a fighter that I believe still is underrated. I think he's proved himself in the world of boxing as one of the pound-for-pound kings. Josh Taylor is he's a bit of a freak. I think he's a really special talent. He's only had 18 professional fights. He was a brilliant amateur. Look what he's done already as a pro. He's won the Super Series. He's cleaned up in the 10-stone division, the first time ever that all the belts, all the treasure will be defended or challenged if you're Jack Catterall on our soil. And of course, you're going to have it in the Hydro, which is going to be absolutely packed. And Flower of Scotland. We've had some good atmospheres in Cardiff and Manchester this February, but this one is this could be the top of the lot because they're mad for him up here. And I think Josh Taylor is he's a great fighter, and now he needs the platform and the push to take him to that next level. But of course, on the other side of the ropes or in the other corner is Jack Catterall, undefeated. He's had more professional fights than Josh, and he's a very good fighter in his own right. He's got a terrific team with Jamie and Nigel around him. Yes, it's a step up in level for Jack, who's saying he can't compete at this level. So really looking forward to seeing how well Jack Catterall can do and how destructive Josh Taylor might be, because I think he'll want to make a statement, and I think that in some ways he needs to make a statement back on Sky Sports at prime time in the month that we've had.
Adam, you've seen fighters come and go at your time during Sky Sports, the length of the period that you've been here. Tell me, does anyone, or can you relate to a fight that has the temperament, the flammability of a Josh Taylor?
I think Josh just provides so much in the ring. I love watching him. I think he's not just a brilliant southpaw with all the skills, but he fights fire with fire. He loves to stand in the pocket. He loves to box and move. He's got it all. He reminds me a little bit of Joe Calzaghe, and Joe was one of my favourite fighters for many years. You know, 3-time ABA champion, undefeated as a pro. I think one of the great fighters we've seen anywhere at any stage in British boxing history, and I think Josh has still got a way to go. He's obviously wants to go up to welterweight and try and become a two-weight champion. So it's early days to be sort of making, I guess, comparisons to the very best. But in modern times he is, and he is one of the finest to lace them up, certainly in Scotland. I mean, Ricky Burns was a 3-weight world champion, but I think even Ricky would admit that Josh is a special fighter. And look, let's see how far he can go. I think if he can, drag the Terence Crawfords or the Errol Spencers into a ring, maybe get some victories or certainly push them really hard, you've got to be talking of Josh right up there as one of the greats who have ever come out of the UK. At the moment, he's still in the eye of the storm. He's still there to be challenged. He's just beaten Ramirez. He's had time out, so he's still got to keep the train rolling. He's got to keep winning, and he's got to keep looking good. But I'd be very disappointed if he didn't do that, because I've always believed that he had something a little bit unique about him, and maybe that comes from the amateur pedigree that he's had from watching Alex Arthur when he was young. But I just think he's got a bit of everything, Josh, and I wouldn't like to be advising people against him when they're fighting him, because he doesn't seem to have many weaknesses. But obviously Jack Catterall has got to try and find those and stamp his own authority. There's been times where Josh hasn't performed maybe as best as he could do, so Jack's got to hope for that. And Jamie Moore believes he's got a guy who's right and ready. He's kept quiet, very respectful. Jack Catterall, what an opportunity he has to shake it all up and lift all the treasure himself. So cannot wait for Saturday night.
Just how big, Adam, on that point would this or could this be if Jack was able to pull it off?
It's a massive moment for boxing if Jack Catterall wins on Saturday night. He's a big underdog, but look, he's unbeaten, and until you've been tested at that top level, who's to say that he can't perform at that elite level. Jack Catterall may be another elite fighter, along with Josh Taylor. So until he's had that opportunity, until sort of Sunday morning comes, we won't really be able to assess if Jack Catterall wins this fight. Yes, it will be a big upset, but it'll be a seismic one, I guess, in Scotland as well, because not only is he stepping up in level, he's got to come into the Lions Den here, the cauldron. And look, Chris Eubank did it at a level against Liam Williams, two best middleweights domestically. It wasn't for a world title, but just underneath the world title level. This is for all the world belts. This is the big time. And if Jack Catterall can gate crash it from where he's been, and he's done everything asked of him so far, but where he's been is nowhere near where Josh Taylor has been, and the resume is just not nearly as good, even though he's got more wins, would be it'd be a big upset. But hey, look, there's a few people around Jack Catterall that believe that's going to happen on Saturday night, and let's see if they can prove it. Write him off at your peril, Jack. He's a very good fighter.
You mentioned at the start of this interview about profile, and it's interesting that we've got someone on our show as a British fighter, undisputed champion, but doesn't maybe have the profile that would beget an undisputed champion. Does the move over to Sky Sports for Josh, the spotlight that Sky Sports bring, the machine that Sky Sports brings, the mouthpiece that Sky Sports brings too, is it going to give him that boost to get him to hop over into the mainstream?
Yeah, fingers crossed. I've been waiting to work with Jack Catterall. I've been waiting to work for a long time as well. And let's not forget him. He's a great fighter himself, and Jack has the opportunity to become a star on Sky too on Saturday night. But no, Josh I've known for a long, long time, and as I said, I've been a big admirer of him. And we spent some time in Vegas many years ago. We were there for a Carl Frampton, Leo Santa Cruz fight. I think it's Josh's 5th or 6th fight. It actually wasn't a great performance from him that night, but we had a lot of time together, and I've always wanted to work more regularly with him. That hasn't happened. We had him for the Regis Prograis fight. Gutted we didn't for the Ramirez fight, but we had different contracts at the time, different promoters. So when Todd DeBurf and Top Rank came to us, we had a 4-year deal. Fantastic. They bring Josh Taylor, and that was one of the real highlights of the 4-year deal, to know that we'd be working with Josh, because I've secretly wanted to for a long time. I wanted to get Carl Froch on Sky for a long time. We had him in the sort of first stage of his career, but then he went around the world. He became a massive star within the trade, beating everybody. When he came back at the Super Series at the sort of semi-final stage, still he wasn't a huge name in the public arena or in the sporting world. And I think that Sky did that with the Lucian Bute fights and others. And I think that's exactly the sort of situation we find ourselves in with Josh. It's not too late. If he can beat Jack Catterall on Saturday, and we can have a couple of fights, maybe at prime time, 10 o'clock at night, over in the UK, I think we can really build something pretty special. He's got the talent, he's got the artillery, he's got the charisma and character too, and I don't think people know enough about Josh yet, but I do think he could become a crossover star, providing he keeps doing his stuff in the ring, and we keep getting the opportunity to put him on the widest possible platform, which is what we're trying to use at Sky, and what we've been doing all February with Eubank and Williams and the big numbers, and really pushing the big fights, because that's what we've been lucky enough to have made in the last sort of few weeks with our friends at Wasserman, with our friends obviously with Team Khan, Team Brook, and here with Top Rank and Boxer. So a lot of people working together to give the best nights for Sky Sports. But our 4-year deal with Top Rank brings us Josh Taylor. Our 4-year deal with Boxer brings us so much on the UK and so much to look forward to, and they're working together, and that's a great sign of the brightness that's going to come. But yes, I do believe that Josh Taylor, given the right building of the profile, and providing he keeps doing what he does in the ring, he can become a massive star.
And then a few things away from this, and I'll bring it back to the fight. Khan-Brook, Andy caught up with you after the fight in the immediate aftermath, so I won't cover too much of the same ground, but pay-per-view numbers, can you give us an indication of how that went?
Well, we're very happy with how Khan-Brook went. It's a story that's been bubbling for so long. First of all, it was fantastic that Ben Shalom made it, and what a cracking week and event. Apart from the one or two words on Thursday at the press conference, which I wasn't happy about, but look, they pretty much handled themselves in exemplary fashion, apart from that press conference, which was wrong. Look, they got themselves into phenomenal shape, and the night itself was a night to remember. Amir and Kel gave us everything. It wasn't there for Amir, but his courage was there in bucket loads, and he went out on his shield. As for Kel, he rolled back the years. It was a brilliant performance. It was a controlled, powerful performance. and it shows that he could, if he wants to, carry on. Maybe it's not the right thing to do. Maybe he should go out on top, having sort of dealt with the nemesis for so long. But for me, the best thing about that was that they ended up with huge respect between the pair, and the post-fight press conference was one of the most endearing and humbling I've ever been involved in. And it was great to see. The two of them have been fantastic fighters over the last couple of decades for boxing, for British boxing. And it was great that they could give us one last dance, and the dance that we all thought might never happen, and it did. And were they at their peaks? No. Was Kell-Brook a very, very good Kell-Brook on the night? Absolutely. Should Amir Khan retire? That's up to him and his family, in my opinion. And from talking to him on Saturday night, I think that's where he's leaning. But, you know, it's not up to us to tell him. He's a prize fighter. I just don't think he's got anything left to prove. I think he's given us absolute thrills, and actually it's a good place for him to go out on his shield, trying till the end. And, you know, he's been amazing for the sport. As for Kell, I think it would have really hurt Kell if he hadn't won on Saturday night. I think ultimately when it came down to it, he possibly put that extra bit in. Maybe he was always the slightly better fighter, but certainly he wanted the win so badly, and he had to go through a lot of difficulties to get there, including changing the gloves at the last minute. So it was a brilliant night for British boxing, and but we wish them both well. They need a rest, the pair of them. But we carry on. We've got a fantastic night on Saturday, and it's just good to see that the big fights are coming thick and fast. And it's not just for us. You know, lots happening on DAZN, lots happening on BT. Great that Fury-Whyte's been made, finally. That's a huge fight on BT box office. Looking forward to that one. So lots of competition around. But Ben and I are really enjoying our time working together, and Boxer and Sky are knitting and thinking about the future, and we just keep building and building. And with Top Rank, they've delivered some fantastic shows in the first 6 months of our deal. We're expecting many more with the likes of Shakur Stevenson, Michaela Mayer, who came over and worked with us at Ringside in Cardiff, who's a delight. Yeah, we're really enjoying our new relationships, our new partnerships. We're looking back at what we've done wrong. We're looking to improve every day. And we're looking to build slowly and make sure that our Sky customers get the best we can possibly give them in terms of the pre-fight hype and the fights that we deliver.
A couple of questions for me. I can see people are waiting to speak to you. It was an interesting observer in the form of a paying customer, that being Eddie Hearn. He made comments about the depth of the card, of the pay-per-view card there, and he said he'd get stick if he'd put that on. Can you comment on that? Were you happy with the depth of the card yourself?
As I said, we always look back at things that we're not happy with. Could we have had better fights on? Yes. We can always say that. I think what you've got to look at, in the last sort of few weeks, we put some mega top of the bills on. Now, 2 have gone on Sky Sports, one with Eubank Williams, and this with Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall, and they're pretty big statements. Also, you had Khan-Brook in, which was a sparkling event, and hence the Sky box office night. Yes, you're going to get good fights and good names on the card, but obviously there's a lot of finances, and Eddie knows this, to make the big events. I think some of the undercard probably wasn't good enough at times, but then you got some really good stories like Brad Ray in Manchester winning very quickly. Fraser Clark had his debut. Adam Azim's going to be a star. You know, maybe the Schofield fight didn't live up to it. The English title fight wasn't quite as good. Jermaine Brown was too good that night. That didn't light fire like maybe the English title fight in Cardiff did a couple of weeks before. We can't get it right all the time. We're always looking to put as best fights as we can, as trade fights, as solid fights, but also looking to build our stable of young fighters. This is a work in progress, and there's a lot of young fighters that need to be taken very carefully and very slowly. Eddie knows that. It's about matchmaking, about bringing fighters through. You know, look, we had some great nights with Eddie, some great shows. Do we have better fights, better nights? No, they're you know, different times. We had some great nights with Eddie. We're going to have some great nights with Ben and with Top Rank. Absolutely. The key is for us to keep learning, keep improving, and keep delivering. But I tell you what, more people have said to me Saturday was a fantastic night than they said it was a poor night, and I'll take that.
Final question.
We need to get this ring down.
Final question from me, Adam. I'll let you come off your perch. Tyson Fury's Dillian-Whyte is signed, sealed and delivered. I was just wondering, on the back end of this, Dillian-Whyte's had a number of Sky Sports pay-per-views. Is he someone you look to signal to maybe sign to the platform coming off the back end of that fight to kind of make that statement again? Are you interested in signing Dillian-Whyte to Sky Sports?
Well, after the Tyson Fury fight? Look, Dillian has been a great fighter for Sky Sports for many years. Really enjoyed working with Dillian and his team since the AJ days and that That rivalry seems so long ago now. And what Dillian has done since then has been fantastic. He's taken on hugely competitive opposition, basically a who's who of heavyweights that no one really wants to get in the ring with. The fights with Derek Chisora, Joe Parker, some really great nights we've had with Dillian on Sky Sports box office. And we've loved those. But, you know, they were with Eddie Hearn. Now we're in a situation where Dillian has got the opportunity to fight for the world heavyweight title against Tyson Fury. It's a fight that Eddie knows he's always wanted. It's a fight that I've known he's always wanted, and I'm really pleased that it's happening. He had that bump against Alexander Povetkin at the Garden, but he wrote the wrong. He exacted revenge, and he's been promoted brilliantly by Eddie. He's been covered by Sky Sports for a long time. But we're not as involved in this fight. This is a BT Sport box office fight. This is Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury will fight on BT. Fury-Whyte looks like he's finally played ball and signed, and hopefully will get a lot of money, as should Tyson. It's a huge fight. It's a great fight for British boxing, and it's a fight we're all going to be very, very interested in. And we'll see what happens afterwards, because, look, we've got... Obviously, Anthony Joshua is going to fight Alexander Usyk again. We've had a huge deal, a huge life story with AJ, really, since he turned pro. And, contract discussions are going on behind the scenes there. I've always been very confident that we'll continue working with AJ, and obviously I'd like to work with Fury-Whyte in the future. I'd like to work with all of them, but we can't have everything. There are other platforms, other promoters, other competitors, and as I said before, Eddie's doing a fantastic job on the zone. Fights are flying out left, right and centre. Frank's doing a brilliant job on BT. To get this fight in Britain and to get it over the line with that huge purse bid is terrific. And hopefully we're building back on Sky. And in the 6 months we've had these 2 new deals, we're in a better place than I thought we would be. There's a long way to go, and it's all part of a bigger sort of output of Sky Sports on Sky Sports. It's not just about boxing. But I think in terms of where we are, we're putting on some really interesting shows, some big nights. We've got plenty coming up in the spring, looking to do another tournament show. We're going to travel the country a bit more and really sort of get into the grassroots. So there's lots of things that Ben and I want to do, and Boxer and Sky are going to back us to do that. And with Top Rank, if they keep putting on the standard of fights that they are from the States, and now they're over here, putting on Josh Taylor against Jack Catterall, happy days.
Adam, pleasure to speak to you. I'm sure I'll catch you again in the fight week. Thank you so much for speaking to Boxing Social. Much appreciated.